read your story, and we have enjoyed it so very much. But I have two questions. The first one is, what you're describing really does look like a highway of milk and honey for your story. But I know that otherwise it hasn't been so for all of the Ethiopians arriving in Israel. And I suppose there are certain challenges, and maybe you can describe to us what would the major challenges be for those who haven't had it so easily and so beautifully as you have. And then my other question is, and I'm not sure about this, but in the time that you were in the refugee camps, did it ever come up to your parents to think it might have been a mistake to do this? Or was it just a matter of, it's just a matter of time, they'll come pick us up, we'll be in Jerusalem, it's 100% sure? Or maybe there was a moment there that they thought maybe we were better off where we were because there was so much not knowingness of what's to follow, that maybe they too were very scared for their children. So was it like a sure bet, or there was uncertainty there?
So when I tell the story of my aliyah, and I mentioned my father and his decision made for us all to just leave without knowing anything or anyone who has done that before us, it's either very brave or very crazy. It depends on how you look at the picture. I still think that my father made a very brave decision. The Ethiopian community is, in a way, you can say, very naive about the way they pictured and saw the world. So they had a pure faith that it doesn't matter how much they are suffering along the way, it's just temporary, they will get there. They will get there. They had a pure faith that it will happen for them because they really wanted it from their bottom of their heart. But today, 30 years after, a very good friend of mine helped to make a documentary talking about the journey itself. And they interviewed few people, some of them I know very well. And it was the first time that I have heard the witnesses about what was happening in those refugee camps, how people really died, and how a mother was breastfeeding her baby, and as she was doing that, losing her own life. And you are hearing those witnesses and you think to yourself, how can they stay sane after all those experiences? But the belief in the future and the goal, and the faith that God showed them the way, and He will show them the way, I think that was what was keeping them along this very difficult journey. And as a child, I don't really remember all of that. I just remember being very protected, very protected. As for your first question about the challenges of the community, I was really fortunate to come to Israel with both of my parents, having both sets of grandparents, and having uncles who've been serving in combat units, and aunts that are like strong women that played as a role model for me. But not everybody had the same story as me. And I know people who came broken families, and children who had to go to live in youth villages because they didn't have both parents to take care of them. And I know that it's much harder for a lot of people who do not have that kind of a support. The challenges are mainly, I think, the lack of knowing the modern life, the lack of knowing how to consume services, even though there are a lot of services out there. and I think that it's just a matter of time, and also changing the generation. I have a lot of respect to my older generation leadership, but I know that the real change will come from my generation and younger generations, because we are starting in a different opening point. We understand the language, we understand the system, we understand our rights, and if there are hardships, and there are hardships, people know how to go out to the streets and use democracy and to share our opinions. We have more people who can stand up and say their opinions, and it's a whole different thing from what my parents' generation was going through.